we discussing?
Start. All right, so we're trying, it's kind of difficult to look at the article and the documentary together because they were both talking about like very different things. So it took a lot of thinking on our part to make a connection, but we basically narrowed it down to like the economy and culture's effect on the economy was what was the similarities between the two. So in the documentary, the Chinese were kind of blaming the Americans' culture for making them like make less profit and stuff, and that's why they were getting upset. They were making less profit, and they blamed that on the Americans' culture, not being like they wanted to go home and see their kids and emphasis on the family and having breaks and stuff like that. Excuse me. Meanwhile, in the article, they were I don't get all the details, but I just have like the basic idea that they were talking about how Black Americans economically have a disadvantage toward against most other white Americans and everyone else, and everyone else was blaming that on their culture that put them in that position. So it's kind of very similar to where they're blaming culture for economic disadvantage.
Very good. That's a whole paper, literally. Like that's a whole paper. You see what you just did there? Phenomenal. Okay. Who wants to add on to this dialogue? I know, right? Me too.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. This is the same one that just said that 8:30 was too early. Are you sure?
Well, I don't have a problem with 8:30.
Oh, clearly. Wow. All right.
I did see some of the photographs in the documentary.
Speak up a little bit more because I don't think it's catching you.
From what I've seen in the doc, basically that's the difference between Americans and Chinese people is the fact that Chinese people value their work. So they were seeing that, they took pride in what they were doing and they thought it was for the greater good and not push them to want to be good in their work. And for them, I think, in my point of view, what I've seen was that the money was just side. It was a positive of them marketing, but I felt really sad for them and pity for them because they didn't see their families as much as they wanted to. And they were describing them with beautiful wives and wonderful children and whatnot. And they only see them once or twice a year, which was crazy to me because if I'm gone with my family in like 5 minutes, I'm not feeling my homesick. I hate it. Like sometimes I go to Sacramento or San Francisco with my brothers for like the weekend. I'm like, I want to go home within like an hour. So for me, that was just like you sacrifice your family, the time with your family to work. And I think for them, they value that because they take pride in their work, and they call us lazy because we don't. We work for money. We work to survive. So we take jobs out of necessity. And that's the main difference I saw between Americans and Chinese people. I admired what they were doing. Their productivity was amazing. The fact that they were so synchronous with each other and they were so connected with one another. But that's sort of the minimum concept I found good was like this is a big sacrifice.
That's how you follow it. Excellent job. Okay. All right. So the circle is working. Y'all, you got your thinking caps on. This is great. What else do we have? You can add to something that was said already, or you can add something new to the table. Come on, don't hold on to the rest of this brilliance now. Sure.
Wouldn't there differences in the way you think the work have to be because maybe Chinese democracy.
Right. And so that's why it's very like how in sync they are is very like military-esque, right? Like it is a demand, it's a requirement of them. And even in the languaging, you can hear them saying things like, you know, you're Chinese people and you need to make China look good. And like that kind of the language, right? Like your responsibility is to your country, right? And so whether you're in the military or not, as a citizen, you're still treated like very military-esque in that way. So yes, the difference is definitely in the governmental structures, right? That is their system. The system, you know, one of the reasons that they wouldn't have that same thing regarding family as well, right? Is China had the one child rule for a long time, right? And so there were a lot of torn families, you know, families who had to make difficult sacrifices and either giving up or even to the extreme of killing their own children because they were born girls, right? They were only allowed to have one child, and that one child had to be male, right? There were very, very few female children in China for a while. And so knowing that, right, knowing the climate of even how their government treats the idea of family would definitely impact that, right? There's not a lot of space for that in the workplace because that's your duty to your country, right? It's not for money, that's for your duty to your country. Mhm.
They have to have a part in the country because it's demanded of them.
Yes.
So they are sacrificing the things, but not really look at it as they have to sacrifice.
Mhm.
Not giving it.
Exactly. Exactly. Ooh, you get it. Okay. Oh. I'm just gonna.
I was able to oh, I get that. How do you do that every single day? I only did that for 2 days and I was exhausted. You do that every single day? And I was like,
What else? What else did that bring up for y'all watching the Chinese workers?
In our breakout room, my group and my partner and I had a conversation about how the US relies on cheap labor like it did back in slavery, and just the industrialization of the industrialization in Detroit, and how like factory workers, well, the slavery to factory work pipeline, and how like everyone out their idea of making it is to get a job at one of the like car plants and, you know, become successful off of that, and how that's their idea of success, like work for the rest of their lives in one of those factories making cars. They even make it to where they can get like a super nice I don't know, scat pack off the lot, and it'll just come out of their paycheck, and it kind of, that's what their whole life becomes. I think we read something in the culture of racism that was talking about the Detroit, I think it was the loans that they were giving them were kind of already set up to fail. So we were having conversations about that, and that kind of led into Detroit and how their factories and industrialization with the whole Motor City connects to what we saw, similar to what was going on with the Chinese workers in the video we watched, or movie we watched.
Yes, absolutely. Excellent job, y'all. Yeah. Right, without union consent. Like the union has to approve a strike. right? And so that then kind of limits our power in terms of being associated with the union. You know, if we were to say, well, we don't like the conditions, so we're going to strike, and the union didn't support that, we could all just lose our jobs, right? So there are definitely pros and cons to having a union. In New Jersey, one of the only 2 states where you don't have to pump your own gas, right? It's because they're unionized. The gas pumpers are unionized. And so it's actually illegal for us to touch the pumps. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unions have like a lot of different functions. They're always going to be tailored to whatever the businesses that they're associated with, but they're always going to come with their pros and cons too.
Think about things before we say things, or just think in general, like before trying to I lost it. I lost it.
I think I can't hear.